and sold that pill to the men. And it was like an original sin. She said, is the Pope dead? I said, ah, you're so thick. So thick. Is the Pope dead? Well, is the Pope Catholic?
Like the first time we performed in the street was a wonderful experience.
We were going to perform, maybe do an open mic at Catch a Rising Star, something like that, and it didn't work out.
And we had nowhere to go, and Chris said, why don't we play here right on the street?
I just picked up the guitar and started doing the blues improv out on the sidewalk, improvising based on suggestions the audience would throw out, making up song verses.
And the rest of us were sort of shy about it, and I said, well, maybe we should back him up. After all, he is part of the group.
And finally they joined me, and we got a crowd around us, and pretty soon there may have been like 50 people around us.
And we made like 50 or $100 in the first evening.
And we got into the joy and the demands of street improv.
I think it was actually my first experience with improv was the Sunday night improv jam. When I was, God, 6 years old or something like that. I was a raffle boy in the Sunday night improv show, yeah. I remember those are incredibly fond memories. I mean, I remember watching it and being like, that looks like the most fun anyone could have. This is a bunch of adults playing make-believe. This is great. How do I get involved? Where do I sign up? My dad did it, and then I've been doing it in some form or another since I was a kid.
You know, not unlike, you know, some shopkeeper kind of passing the shop on to his son and him running with it.
Sometimes I think that doing improv scenes is either easy or impossible. On some nights it just seems to go so smoothly, and on other nights it seems like you're Sisyphus with the rock up the hill, and it's just nothing works.
What a wonderful concept to carry through your life, to make each other look good.
You don't know what you're going to say. You don't know how you're going to respond. You don't know what's going to happen. And there's something really delicious about that.
I often tell my students, quoting Keith Johnstone, that an improviser is like a man walking backwards. He doesn't know where he's going. He just knows where he's been.
The biggest misconception about improvisation is that it involves thinking. People think, wow, you have to be such a quick thinker to do improvisation. At its heart, doing true improvisation, you're not thinking at all.
I've had people say, so that was scripted, right?
The biggest misconception about improv is that it's always funny.
We saw improv more as theater, and improv now is synonymous with comedy.
And most of them think that we have this incredible storehouse of one-liners that we just associate with the situation. But, you know, it really goes to show you, I think, the level of perception that people have of what improvisation is. They don't understand that, you know, it's the idea of creating moments that you really can't recapture.
The most challenging thing about improvisation is getting over that hurdle of being afraid that you're not going to know enough to do it. Of being afraid that you're going to be made a fool of. You cannot do improvisation if you're afraid of looking foolish. Because I guarantee you, you will. At some point, you will look very foolish.
You know, basically, I give it a thumbs up because, you know, anybody who'll you know, put an undepicted group in a movie. Help me, Tom.
Undepicted group.
Words fail me at the sight of Mrs. Goldblatt in the top.
Well, you know, it's a wonderful film for the family and for people who want to see undepicted groups.
Many people trace the roots of modern improv to the Italian commedia dell'arte of the 16th and 17th century. In those shows, they would have an outline of plot, perhaps posted backstage. And they would then improvise and do bits. They had complete freedom to do so as long as they stuck to the storyline. People like Laurel and Hardy, and perhaps even more so in the silent days, used improvisation quite unselfconsciously. It was certainly part and parcel of silent work because there were no full scripts for comedies back then.
It started in Chicago. That's why our name, Chicago City Limits, because improvisation really did begin in Chicago at the Compass Players, Mike Nichols, Elaine May, which eventually sprang out into all kinds of improvisational companies. The Committee in San Francisco, Second City in Chicago, which is doing pretty well for itself lately.
Modern improvisation started in Illinois in 1955, when students from the University of Chicago began performing improvised skits from their own scenarios. This group developed into the Compass Players, and later into Second City, from which many other improv groups are descended. In the near vacuum of political humor of the early 1960s, Second City's off-the-cuff comedy, dealing with literature, the church, Korean War veterans, Joe McCarthy, and marijuana, was as unusual for its material as it was for its method.
First time I saw improvisation was at Second City in Chicago, Illinois, in the 1970s. I'm aging myself, but that's the truth. And I went to Second City and saw the show and absolutely, positively fell in love. I said, this art form was meant for me. This is what I want to do.
And when I took the class, it was with George Tedisco, the founder of Chicago City Limits. It really impressed me. I gave up thinking about writing sketches, and all I wanted to do was improv. Okay, well, we have a fourth film now, which is a revival of an old film. It's called Sheets. Wow. It's about the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah. It's a musical about keeping their sheets clean.
I thought improv was literally, before I studied it, literally just making things up. And I had no idea that there was a structure.
The most common misconception is, well, when you hear a restaurant, then you go into your restaurant scene, right?
The most common misconception about improvisation is that it's just kind of like loosey-goosey, super free-form, and you know, you just kind of make it up, and all of that is true to a degree, but also good improvisation and good improvisers know the structure, and they don't improvise, they improvise on the lookout for things.
I think the technique is very important, and that's the other, that would be another misconception about improvisation, is that you're just winging it on stage. There are rules to improvisation. There aren't many. You know, but there are rules of improvisation. The rules are, you know, accept any offerings that are given to you, yes and any scene, make active rather than passive choices. Those are all kind of like the same rule at the same time. And within that rule, you can create anything.
Yeah, I always fall back on technique. So the technique is, you know, the scales. It's appropriate improv technique, like not denying your partner and not shutting down their energy and not overrunning their ideas and listening to them and reacting to them and, you know, and adding to the scene. All these techniques that are, I'm spouting them off as if they're nothing, but they just take each one takes years of practice to get very good at it. And that's you know, those are the basic techniques. The comedy part of it is built on top of that.
I understand that you're going to be starting workshops so you can teach improvisation, teach the methods.
Yes.
About that. Well, what's that about and when do they start?
Well, actually, I feel that people have a lot of money to spend that they don't know what to do with.
Yeah.
And so, you know, why not get them in there, let them think they're funny, and take their money? I mean, I'm only kidding. People are going,
well, listen, I mean, if you're throwing, if you want to cut it, it's okay.
I think if you said, gee, I'd like to have some fun, acting classes, it's kind of seems like there's a structure and a rigor to that. Improv classes seem a lot more accessible, a lot more easy to kind of just step in, and even if you don't feel like you're good at it, you may give it a shot. So
I was attracted to you before, Tom, but now I'm feeling a little hesitant. I like dead people too. How do you feel about dead animals.
People need to come into improvisation knowing that they can do it. Knowing that there are rules, yes, but that they have everything that they need, enough life experience to be able to talk about any subject. They can find that confidence, and they have no problem talking day to day, at least most people don't. So you can help them to find the confidence that they need to have to be able to perform in the spur of the moment.
Play Cowboys and Indians when we used to play dress up.
I took a master's class with Kurt Brownholder, and he was having us do exercises where we were talking in 5 words or less, and I just took that to extreme, really just practicing communicating without talking so much, you know, trying to communicate through my object work, trying to communicate through space, through emotion. And one time I took it to the extreme. I didn't plan on doing this, but I had an opening scene and my character never spoke the whole time, and it went over. And I think somehow I did the whole show and didn't speak.
Often when I get new students in my class, I ask them, have you ever done improv before? And the answer invariably is, no, I've never have done improv. And I say to them, that's a trick question, because you have done improv. You go through life without a script, so you're improvising. Improv games and techniques are about learning to become comfortable with yourself on stage in a pressured environment. Every person is different, but every person is the same. Every person is different in they have unique personality and they bring their own ideas to it. But they're the same in that they're all afraid to look foolish. When you do an improv, is make them embrace that foolishness, make them embrace the inner self that they don't want to expose. You put up an idea, and then your partner puts up an idea. It's like you're putting a brick in the house, and you're building a house, and you put in a brick, then your partner puts in a brick, and you keep putting bricks in. It's the principle of yes and. When you say yes to someone, you are agreeing with them putting in the brick, and when you say and, you're adding your own brick. So you keep adding bricks until you've built a house.
The hare is convinced, as in the original fable, that he has all the time in the world, so he does everything in this scene to emphasize that fact, from brushing his nails to writing a novel.
But the turtle, of course, has a drinking problem.
I forgot. Yes, in addition to being a turtle and being old, he has a drinking problem. I'd say the odds are pretty well stacked.
He's also become a chain smoker.
It's amazing how these details slip my mind.
I understood that.
He does.
Yeah.
Oh, and he just escaped from prison and still has the leg irons.
And he speaks to the list. All right, let's take it.
Taking a chance is one of the most important elements of improvisational work, but the risk is somewhat less than it might seem to the audience because the improviser is guided by training and by discipline learned and developed through a series of rehearsal, performance, games. All these games involve skills that everyone uses without even thinking. Listening, observing, and communicating. You listen to what people tell you, you observe how they say it, and then you communicate your response, either verbally or non-verbally. Everyone goes through this process, but only improvisers turn it into an art form.
There's a huge difference between improv and acting. Some of the principles are the same, like you stay in the moment and you are trying to focus and listen to people, but the whole element of not having a script is what really forces you to be extremely present.
You have to walk through your improv with very big ears and very big eyes. You have to see everything and hear everything and make it make sense.
I really try to just listen to what the other person is saying or doing and just like over accept it my way, like sort of emotionally over accepting it. So if somebody says, here's your sandwich, just like, Tom, you made me, something like that, only better.
It's like being in a baseball game. You never know where the next pitch is coming, and you got to keep your eyes open.
Improv lives or dies by the interaction between two people. What comes from the interaction between two people working like that is greater than either one could come up with on their own. And that is the magic part of improv.
You provide a justification for a behavior or for a line of dialogue or for a choice that is made in the scene. And that helps center that scene. It helps let the audience know where you are, what's going on, and more importantly, it lets the audience believe in what you're doing.
I like to see it as spontaneity. It's sort of the nonsense where you get your ideas that come out in unshaped, unmolded form, and the justification is the sense that you put to it.
So what's going to happen is one of us will have to have his head stuck in this bucket while the other two have a scene going on. Now, when that person who has his head in the bucket starts to lose oxygen, he will raise his hand up high and wave for help. And at that point, one of the other cast members has to come over and replace him, the one who's had his head submerged underwater, and then that person who was submerged has to come out and continue the scene and explain why his head is wet. All right, we take you to a scene in a submarine. Captain, we sprung a leak. Look, I'm not captain anymore, okay? You're not captain? When did that happen? Well, I step out for a minute and you're no longer captain. Oh, I shouldn't have said it. I've said it. Who opened that hatch? What an idiot! There's a leak down there. Oh, my God. Are you the captain now?
Yes, I believe so. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Dry those tears.
Captain, I've been crying because...
Stop calling me that!
Oh, he's gone! I'm sorry, I just... You're weeping tears! You're weeping tears with me as well. Captain, oh, Captain that was. Look,
I've been running up and down the deck, and I'm bursting with perspiration. We're under attack! We're under attack! Please, come in! Coming from all sides! They got me! They got you! Oh my God! This man's wounded! Quick, a tourniquet! Let me get him back! We'll revive him!
That's a massive head injury. You boys look like you could use a drink.
At Second City, we were never allowed to do characters. We were always a credential. I was always Tom as a lawyer, Tom as a pilot, Tom as a $2 whore. They discouraged accents or any big character choices there. That way they honored the actual process of improv. It wasn't until I met the people at the First Amendment that the character work for me really took off.
You're a grave digger. Now, who's the most interesting person you ever digged a grave for?
I would say it was the Siamese twins, Ling and Ping.
Really?
Because I had to dig a hole so big but shallow.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I bet grave digging is more fun than you can even talk about. Okay, we'll hear about it later. Get over there.
Instead of just, studying this character of this person, this other person, I could be this other person, but not with a lot of, 3 weeks of Stanislavski analyzing. I play a character many times by watching my partner and seeing what I think is needed.
At the end of an improv show, I'd always say, I didn't walk in the door knowing I'd be a pirate or a giant or a boss or a singing seal or some other crazy thing. You don't walk in the beginning of the night, but when you walk out, you say, I can't believe I played these 6, 8, 10 things.
One of the few things in improv that makes me a little bit nervous sometimes is having to improvise a song.
I used to be a top caterer. I stood tall. You stood tall. Now it's all over. I hardly ever get a call. Apparently one doesn't serve nachos at an embassy ball.
You have to interact with the pianist. You hope to goodness that it's a good pianist who can adapt to what you're trying to do. as you'll try to adapt to what he or she is trying to do.
You should never feel like you're leading anybody, that you should always feel like you're following the action.
When you're improvising on the piano, it's very much the same as improvising on the stage in that it's all about your partner, and you're taking your cues from your partner and simply reacting to what they're giving you.
So when I improvise a musical song, I like to think, sometimes even before I speak the first word, where might this song go?
What I think that I'm particularly attuned to is just looking at someone and seeing their level of comfort or their level of nervousness, and when they need the type of support that might be leading on my part, and when they need to be left alone because a brilliant idea is about to come to them.
You're going for good drama, or you're going for a human story, and you're telling the story.
All my friends think I'm kind of boring. The most exciting thing I do is sometimes snoring. You can have your jobs and you can have your plans. I'll just lay around with my lovely woman and our lazy chair. Our lazy chair. Our lazy chair. Our lazy chair.
Having to keep that rhythm.
And I thought, oh my God, there's a clock, tick tock, but it stopped, and it stopped kerplop. I don't know what to do when the clock stopped ticking, ticking in the hall.
Keep that melody.
Tick, 'cause somebody maybe licked it, and I don't know what rhyme to play, but stick and tick, make click. A clock doesn't tick, but tock.
And above all, keep those rhymes.
I'm wearing a smock when I stand by the clock, and it goes into talk, and I know how to honk it, but don't do the clocks. I dropped a clock in the hall, and I'm having a ball, but I don't know you all, 'cause you're starting to fall, so I'm really frustrated, 'cause the clock is too slow, and it stopped. Tick, tick, tock.
These are real challenges.
I don't think there's ever a show where it works 100%. It's just not the art form. So you go, it's that kind of, it's that kind of watching a car wreck. You know, people watch car races because, oh, there could be a wreck. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but it's the same thing with watching improv. You're watching the people on stage knowing that they could crash and burn at any moment. So I think that the audience allows for that to happen.
The best improv is pretty clever and fun to watch, but it's not the cleverness that really makes it magic. What makes it magic is that it is happening in the moment, and that it is happening with the audience being one of the active participants in its creation.
My brain starts to think differently. And, that's one reason people take drugs or they drink, they start thinking differently. And so it's sort of an addictive activity.
When I was a young boy, I would not give a hoot.
It really makes you feel stronger and braver and much larger than you really are.
About the vitamins that I was eating, and I would not eat the fruits.
The content is always different, so it's quite literally inexhaustible.
But when I got a little older and grew into a man.
It's one of those things where investment of time and effort into improv completely improves every other task you're going to try to attempt.
I developed a attractive Chiquita plan.
I have a lot of fun just pretending that we're really here, we're really there.
And I said I got to have something that makes me not home.
And it's just thrilling to me to like face off to people and work with that energy.
I need in my body a little potassium.
I enjoy the fragility of it.
the delicacy of it.
And I love bananas.
I could go to class every week and I could go to shows, and I'm acting more than my counterparts who might have real jobs doing acting.
Oh, bananas.
I love the joy of improvisers and the fun and the great fun that I've had being around so many incredible wits and so many different types of performers trying to create something wonderful right away.
Most brilliant improv that I have seen has come from two people who are really just present on stage and are honestly listening and reacting in that moment to their partner. And that is what had really made me fall in love with improv, not only as an improviser, but as an actor.
It's just damn fun. It's just fun. It's a thrill. It's exciting. You're there with, you know, with your pants down around your ankles in front of an audience, basically, and you have to perform. You have to function. And you have to function at the top of your intelligence. Improvisation forces you to be in the moment. It forces you to be in the aliveness of the moment, the present moment. It forces you to be aware, awake, alive, and functioning. And when all those things happen at once, when you are wholly involved in the immediacy of the moment, there's nothing else like it. And that happens so infrequently in our lives that I think that when it happens in improvisations, you just go, man, this is how I wanted to feel my whole life.
Just the other day, and one little that just wasn't clean. Well, I didn't have to pay to sit in the sea, but did you have to pay for the being? $3 if you come late, you don't have to pay. If you come late, you don't have to pay.
That's the only way you get me back. Make the whole world laugh. Something that wasn't funny. Who do you think I am, Adam Sandler? Now there's a blackout line if I ever heard one.